Hi, welcome to Two Down Doctors. I'm Liz Mealy.
I'm Maria Shahada.
What was that pause?
What pause? I didn't pause.
Oh, you absolutely had a pause.
Oh, it was probably a lag.
Oh, was it a lag? Because for a second I was like, did she forget her name?
I'm.
What?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Howdy. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How's it going?
My roommate told me I smelled the other day.
Okay. Well,
And he wasn't wrong. Let me paint a picture. He wasn't wrong. I'm painting a scene. I'm sitting at the kitchen table. He's by the sink. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Have you worked out recently?" And I was like, "No." And I'm like, "What kind of question?" Like, I'm already like, what the fuck is this? And then he goes, "Have you showered recently?" And I was like, "No." And I'm still confused, by the way. I'm still like, what is this? And he goes, "I don't want to make it sound like you're Sam," which is Sam is my brother. And I love my brother with my whole heart, but we often remind Sam to take a shower or wash his hair or brush his teeth. Like,
yeah.
I love him with my whole heart, but like he's lived with my parents. He's been in and out of hospitals. He can be a little bit of a smelly kid. I know that's like a bad thing to say, but like, I don't know. I now understand as a new smelly kid herself, I now understand what's the motivation. If I'm not seeing anybody, if I'm not going anywhere, what is the motivation to be clean? And now I kind of see like, oh, I am Sam. Like, we are the same person. I just left the house and did shows and saw my friends and dated. So like all of a sudden I'm being called the smelly kid in my own home. And that's how he said it. He goes, "I don't want to call you Sam." And I was like, "Oh, I smell." I literally was like, "Oh, I smell." And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, and I literally was like, I think I see it. Like, I think I smell it. Like, I don't, but like, you know how like it's your own funk, so you don't know, but
you sort of just kind of are paranoid. Like, do I smell bad? Like, would anyone tell me? And
yeah.
apparently Chris would.
Chris Witt. Well, we've lived together for 11 years and this is the first time he told me I smell. So I think either our friendship
Liz.
is getting, thank you so much.
It felt like more like a boast of how you usually never smell.
That's a good boast. I think that's a respectable boast. But I kind of was like, okay, either our friendship has gotten stronger or I have let myself go smelly wise. And I literally, and the other reason is so we don't really have a living room. We kind of like, we have this kind of hallway that we like have a bench press and like some other workout stuff. But if we want to watch a movie, we either watch it in the kitchen on his big computer or we watch it in one of each other's rooms. And all three of us were going to be in Chris's room. So it was basically like, we're going to be in close quarters and it is rough over here. And I was like, oh yeah. And it was kind of funny. Like, it didn't offend me at all. And I mean, we've talked on this podcast how I've really suffered from the motivation to shower. I have gone a couple like full weeks. Like, I'll be honest. Like, if I don't
serious?
work, because my thing is, yeah.
Oh my God.
What's the motivation? Okay, so this is the thing. So these are the things that motivate me to shower: working out, seeing other people, like leaving the house and seeing other people, and just like in general just wanting to feel happy or pretty or whatever. But like, I'm not leaving the house. I didn't work out for like a while. I was like really struggling to like literally even just go for a walk, let alone go for a run. I'm getting a little better. I showered 2 days in a row this week.
Okay.
Like my brother Sam, like I think I am kind of realizing that I am a lazy kid. I'm a lazy person. And if I don't have any reason to do it, I don't like being cold. So my room is kind of cold. My room's cold and then my bathroom's colder. So the shower is nice. Once I'm in the shower, I'm fine. But I hate washing my hair. I hate doing stuff with my hair. If I shower at night, I hate sleeping with wet hair. I hate getting out of the shower and being cold. Then I hate the whole like, just like the way I hate putting on and taking off makeup. I hate the whole like rigmarole of like picking out clothes and finding the right clothes.
You're a genius.
I was thinking more an environmentalist.
No, that's not why you do it. And like, but you're just a genius. You don't have any time for this shit. You just like, there's things you'd rather be doing. And if you're not doing it for someone else, i.e. other people, or after you work out, you're just not going to, because your time is better spent figuring out how to conquer the world until one of your flatmates goes, or roommates goes, No more. You must shower.
That is the nicest interpretation of how gross I am. That's
Yeah.
why you're my friend. That was so nice. I
Yeah.
needed that. Oh, sweetheart, you smell because you're brilliant.
You're fucking brilliant. You
Aw.
don't have time for this mundane shit.
And what's interesting is, so I'm trying to get back into running. I've run like once a week with my running buddy, but like I used to run anywhere from 4 to 5 days a week, and it was really helpful for my anxiety. It was really helpful for like problem solving and writing, honestly. And then the same thing that people say you create in an absence of thought. And running would do that for me. Showering does that for me. I definitely come up with ideas in the shower. Driving, I'll come up with ideas driving because it's like, you're on the road for hours. And what I've realized in a lot of ways is that I've become even more of a workaholic. I'm just in front of my computer all day. I'm working on all these different things, and I'm not giving myself a break, and I'm not letting my mind wander, and my anxiety is coming out in different ways. And that at the very least, if I'm not going to go for a walk or go for a run, I need to shower. Like I need to find something where there's no I'm not on my phone. I'm not on my computer. But
Yeah,
I have to say this.
yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm just pretty proud that somebody said I smelled. And I was like, you're right. Like I wasn't even offended. I was like, I'm really glad you said something.
You have no right to be offended. You fucking stink. You can't be like, how dare you? How dare you watch out for your nose?
But I think we all know that even when somebody's right, it's still hurtful and you can be offended. Like, I mean, I pretty much mastered that in my teens and
I
20s.
think that like it's good that you didn't take it personally and like sulk and go, oh my God, I smell bad and everyone hates me. You didn't do that. You're just like, yep, stink. That's not wrong. I'm gonna go shower.
Valid point, sir. What were you gonna say though?
I have to stop myself from showering twice a day. I love showering.
What do you love about it?
It's a little haven of my own time. Because you get in and it's like really relaxing to have hot water and like the steam and everything. It's hypnotic. Then you get into this sort of creative state, and I could just stand under the water for 20 minutes. It makes me happy.
When I'm in there, I'm happy. It's not unhappy. I mean, sometimes my hair makes me unhappy because I also don't wash my hair every day, and it starts to become like a tangled beehive. And so I'll shampoo and condition it, but I'll have to like brush it in the shower. And every time I'm like almost like a mom talking to a little kid that's like, did you put glue in this? Like, why, Elizabeth? Why? So there is some like hair shame. I love my curls, but it is the bane of my existence. When I straighten my hair and I don't have to wash my hair for a week, that's more likely to get me to shower. It really is all about hair maintenance and doing stuff to my hair and everything. I wish I had a good shaped head. I have like a lumpy head under all this hair, and like everybody shaved their head during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I would definitely keep it like fucking short, or like shave it and start over.
You could keep it short and no one would still see the lumps. Why don't you just cut your hair? I know why, because it's been that length for decades. And so it's where your superpower lies. You're like Samson. And then if you cut your hair, suddenly like your entire social media empire will crumble. Everyone will unfollow you. No one will like your comedy anymore.
Not my thought process, and now I'm terrified. Do you want to know the real reason I haven't cut my hair?
Yes.
Is because your hair is short and my older sister's hair is short, and we all have the same hair.
My hair isn't short.
Yeah, it is. It's to your shoulders.
Look, it's getting longer though.
Muffin, my hair.
Okay, you have longer hair, but
yeah. But like so Emmy cut her hair. My sister cut her hair like maybe 5 years ago. It's now long like mine, but like it was like kind of perfect. Like she was like my barometer of, oh, this is like, I don't even know if you can see this, but like, see, her hair was short there.
Yeah, it looks
and
cute.
It looks so fucking cute. And I was like, we have the same face. I could do this. She has a better chin and a better nose. Those are just facts, but we have pretty much the same face. And I was like, well, if Emmy can do it, I can do it. And then I was waiting for Em to grow out her hair, which she did. And then I don't know, what are we gonna be? Two people with short hair, two people that we look the same.
But I was sort of asking, like, why don't you just cut it like really short?
What's really short?
Like you know,
like here, like cheekbones.
Well, you seem to have this idea that hair has to all be the same length. So you're like, like this.
Yeah, I have like a bowl cut.
Yeah, why not like a shaggy cut where it's sort of like this, but like really like short here, and then it kind of gets longer around here, but it's shaggy and pretty.
You look beautiful on your shag. When you have Short hair, you always have to do your hair. And as we now learned, I'm one of the laziest people you'll ever meet. Short and curly, you gotta fucking show up. And I don't know if I want to show up.
Okay. Well, I think that just a few longer layers will settle your problem.
I think so too. I just need to it's been a year and a half. I need to just get a fucking haircut.
Yeah. Are you able to get a haircut right now?
Dolores, who you introduced me to, and I've been going to her for 10 years, she moved to Long Island. So I'd have to drive. That's
Oh, you still go to
I know.
her. God, that is faithful.
No. That's what I'm saying is she just moved. Like she had a place in Manhattan. The pandemic happened and clearly she couldn't afford to stay. So she went to Long Island where she lives. I have to drive.
God, I would kill to take a drive right now. No, I wouldn't kill, but I probably would kill somebody if I got in a car. I drove once in the UK in London. I got a zip car membership and I called my flatmate and I was like, do you want to go for a spin? I had like an hour. I was like, let's go for a drive. And I spent the whole drive going, watch out, I'm a bad driver. Because I was on the wrong side of the car, on the wrong side of the street. And I was freaking the fuck out. And London roads are like made for like horses and carriages.
They're so narrow.
So small.
Dude, they're so narrow.
Yeah. And then they like, there'd be like sidewalk parts that jettisons out into the road so they could put like a little tree on it. And so then you had to like maneuver that, but there was somebody over here riding a bike, and I was freaking out. And then there's like a 7-way cross, right? Like it was like streets this way, this way, this way, this way. And Amanda's like talking to me. She's like telling me a story, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying right now because I don't know how to navigate this section.
Literally 16 again, and I'm like, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, and the only thing that saved me was that there was an ambulance coming, and everybody pulled to the side, and I used that time to like get out of the intersection completely. And it was I was so scared the whole time I was on the roads. But you got to do it again. Or what, am I never going to drive in the UK? That's not me.
That's one of the things, because there's so many different rules and different changes, and like even their signs are weird. I've driven in other people's cars a bunch touring in the UK, but I think my dyslexia and just it being different, I've always been like, I can't rent a car in the UK. I will murder people. Like,
how many times have you been in the back seat of a car share in the UK? Like the person will be talking in the passenger seat and they'll keep like turning around to talk to me. And I'm just like,
focus,
watch the road, because you forget. Oh man,
dude, 100%. Or my favorite is like a booker will drive me somewhere and I'll try to get into the driver's seat and they're like, if you want to drive, and I'm like, sorry, I'm a moron. Like the amount of times that I'm walking to the driver's seat thinking it's the passenger seat. I'm like, sorry. Like, okay, should we do announcements?
Yeah.
Thanks to all our Patreons. You guys are awesome. If you don't know, you get extended interviews, you get bonus episodes, you get stickers, you can control our Googles, you can become a Google guest yourself. And starting next episode or next week, we will have bonus episodes every week. We're going to do a Let's Get Personal bonus episode every week for anybody that gives us $5 or more. So, yeah, support us. Thank you for all the people that do support us. Thank you for everybody that listens. But our Patreons, we got tons of bonusy fun stuff coming up.
And subscribe to us on the socials, on Twitter, on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. It's at 2nondoctors with the number 2. And then on Instagram, it's at 2nondrs, the number 2. Give us a review if you haven't yet. It means a lot to us if you could go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review and rate us. That would mean a lot to us. It helps us get seen, and we always feel really special when you do that. And thank you to everyone who has done so far.
Oh yeah, we have tons of great reviews, and like we said, it always makes our day, and it helps us reach new people that want to hear kind of medical information in a funny, uninformed way. And we appreciate you telling people about us. A couple quick personal announcements. Zoom Diner. I'm doing another Zoom Diner. Maria was on the last Zoom Diner. She was awesome. If you missed it, you messed up. But I have another Zoom Diner, which is my new material show, March 7th with Hurry Kundabolo and John Hastings, who is a friend of both of ours.
Both brilliant, great guys.
Yeah, both brilliant comedians. John Hastings makes me laugh though, because he's Canadian, but I know him from being based in London. And then I think he moved to New York for like a minute, and now he's in LA. So I literally, when I booked him, I was like, where are you? Like, where are you? And then he took a while to like send me stuff I needed for the poster. He's like, I have a broken arm and I'm just also lazy. And I was like, it's okay. Like he like gave an excuse and also was like, this is also who I am. And I was like, good to know. So Zoom Diner, March 7th. My cat book comes out March 16th. If you like cats and want to read about cats. March 16th, my cat book comes out. And then April 3rd, I'm going to be in Portland doing outdoor shows. All that information is on my website, lizmealy.com. So thank you guys. Fan mail?
Yeah. Okay. So this is from Jay. He left a comment on our Patreon, and he says he's referring to our conversation with Ben Foltz when we were talking about the difference between music and comedy, and how like Ben said that we had it harder. Like he was lucky because he could just do the same old songs show after show after show, but comedians for some reason like they always have to do new material.
Yeah.
And so Jay says, Liz, you and Maria have such interesting conversations. I've been thinking about the interview with Ben Folds all day. Why is it that we people in general don't like to see a comedian use the same material? We listen to music over and over again. I'm listening to the Cranberries right now and have literally heard their songs dozens or hundreds of times. We also go and see the same Broadway shows more than once. And other than a few major actors, I barely notice when an understudy is there. We see movies a lot. So it can't be a visual versus spoken thing. It can't be literature because I've read the same books multiple times. I was thinking it might be worst for painters because they literally can't be known with only one painting and have to come up with a whole new vision to accomplish a new work. I do have some thoughts. While I listen to music, I don't necessarily listen to the words truly consciously, whereas you ultimately have to listen to the entire wording of a joke to understand it. You have to pay attention. Movies and TV create situations where you have a feeling and you want to relive a great scene. But this is also true to a certain extent with comedians. I do go back and watch favorites on YouTube more than once, and when I see material I liked before, I still like it again. I think that the issue with comedians is that you spend as much time as the painter and the songwriter singer crafting the entire wording of your narrative, practicing it and telling it the right way. But it only takes your audience seconds to hear it and memorize the punchline. And the audience, while most don't have the eidetic recall to remember the entire wording, they can recognize the punchline immediately. I swear to God, our listeners are so fucking smart. Like
They really are. Like every time they say something, I'm like, oh.
Every time we
idea.
get a mail, I'm just like, why are you listening to us? Like, you're so much smarter than we are.
Yeah. You got. Oh my God, I feel like we're like battered wives. Like we're just like, you could do, what are you doing? Well, you could do so much better than this podcast.
Yeah. Some bits people want to see over and over again. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
I brought my friend to come see this bit. I want you to say that bit because I want them to hear it. And then other times it's just like, well, I've already heard this shit, like why did I come see you again? But I don't know what the difference is, or like why some materials you want to hear it over and over again. I feel like that's a mark of a really good bit is when they're like, oh, I love this joke, rather than I've already heard this. It's like, oh, I'm like,
yeah. Well, it also depends because I think comedy is the element of surprise, and not even just shock. I'm not talking about shock comedy in general. I'm talking about giving a perspective that nobody heard before, and it changes how you see stuff. So I always use Mitch Hedberg as an example. Escalators can never be broke. They can only become stairs. Sorry for the convenience. He would take something that you already experienced every day and just flip your perspective about it. He takes a bit of knowledge we all have, escalators being broke are still usable. And then he gives it a little twist. A woman said I was blocking a fire exit. And I was like, if you're flammable and have legs, you're never blocking a fire exit. That's a great perspective. Every time I look at a fire exit, I think I'm flammable and have legs. I cannot block this entryway. So to me, two things are happening. He's changing my perspective and I can never not see that. Now, if anybody has anything that's vaguely in that perspective, I'm like, I already know that. Mitch Hedberg taught me that perspective. The other thing is when it's so unique, like Mitch, and he had that cadence and he had that silliness, it makes you want to share it with other people. It makes you want to be like, when you read like a really good self-help book, or you read something that like changes your mind and you're like, I need to let people know that things could be better. Like we could be happier. Like I remember listening to Mitch Hedberg and Ted Alexandro and Jim Gaffigan and Greg Giraldo and Wanda Sykes and Dave Chappelle. And like an evangelical Christian trying to push it on all my friends and be like, guys, things could be better if we knew how they felt about the world and their perspective. And I think there's that change, and then you want to spread it. But then there's also, once it's like in there, you can't unsee it. And that element of surprise, or that changing of perspective, it's dulled. Those like pictures where it's like, is it an old woman or a young lady? You know what I mean? Depending on how you look at the picture, it could be seen as an old lady, or it can be seen as like a beautiful woman wearing a dress. They're these like kind of mind things. You can like, might take you a while to see both versions of it, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so I think that's where it kind of is that like it gets dulled because you shocked them, you changed their perspective, and now nothing new is gained from hearing it again.
Yeah, I also think that like because comedy is sort of a conversational thing, you can feel like you're just like listening to a friend talk, and you forget that the stuff is pre-written. And because I mean, I think comedians present material as if it was coming off the top of their head. Most people are conversational in that way. I mean, unless you're a one-liner or whatever, you're doing a character. Most comedians just try to be conversational, like "What's up with this?" and blah blah blah. All my imitations of comedians are always from like the early '90s, but
Yeah.
because it comes off that way, like if somebody comes to see a comedian again and they're coming to kind of see a friend again and that friend says the same thing, it's just like, it's how I get mad when like my drunk friends repeat themselves. It's like, I've already heard this. Say something else.
You told me the story. No, I like that perspective too, which is just like, yeah, I came here because I like you. I want to hear more from you, but not the same shit over and over again. And it is hard.
But I think when you have
like,
a classic joke, people do want to hear it over and over again. Like when you have a really good bit, people do like hearing it.
well, also I think it's okay. So the first time you hear a joke and it makes you laugh and you get really excited, it's endorphins, it's serotonin, like all the feel good feelings are hitting you. So the same way we eat junk food, the same way we do drugs, the same way we drink, you're trying to get that same hit. And maybe the second time, let's say you get it and it hits you and you're at a 10. So then the second time it's still funny, it hits you, you're at a 9. And then you try it again and it's maybe like an 8.5. But eventually it's going to be a 6 or a 4. The next way to kind of get that high is to share it with other people and watch somebody get a 10. Like that's how I was when I was a teenager, or even like me sending a funny meme to my friends. Like it'll make me laugh and I'll send it to you or I'll send it to Emmy. And I'm like, I'm waiting for the ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? Like I want them to have the 10 that I had. And then I like getting the hit of I provided that laugh, even if it wasn't even my material. I'm just like, I was the better.
Can I ask you a question? Can I interrupt you? How did you make your friends watch comedians back in the day? Because now like you can be like, watch this YouTube clip, or you can send a clip on Instagram, or you could share a meme on Instagram. But I did that too. Like I was like, you have to watch this comedian. I would do it, I guess with CDs, I would make them sit and listen to their albums. But I don't remember how we did it, but how did we share comedians' material before it was easy?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So Comedy Central repeated premium blend, half-hour specials, hour specials. You know, it was like Sinbad, Paula Poundstone. Then they had all these like premium blends and whatever. So I would see something and I would be like, oh my God. And then because Comedy Central repeats themselves, I would literally search the TV guide for days to see when that premium blend was coming back on or when that half hour is coming back on. And then I would get a blank tape and I would tell people downstairs, because like the basement is like where all the kids hung out. I was like, downstairs at 2 p.m. on Saturday, I'm recording for a half hour, Ted Alexandro's half hour. Do not touch it. Do not touch my tape.
Yeah.
And so then I would take it and then I would write Ted Alexandro. And then, you know, I would discover Greg Giraldo. And I would then after Ted, I would tape Greg. And, you know, you have to like make sure that it's like in the right place. And then I would go to sleepovers and I would literally be like, hey, before the movie, can I show you this 20 minutes from Greg Giraldo? Or like, I remember Dane Cook was really big. There was a couple of albums that were really big. And I would make, because of Napster, I would make these bit compilation CDs, mix CDs, the same way that I would make a music. And I was constantly making people music.
I specifically, whenever I was hanging out with my friends, would put on comedy. I'm like, you got to watch Dane Cook. You got to watch, like, it was Mitch Hedberg. It was Nick Swartzen. I remember when Bill Burr was on, I was watching his Comedy Central Presents. And as I was watching it, I realized I was like, this guy's really fucking good. You know, because you see some specials and you're like, meh, no.
Yeah.
But like, as I'm watching him, I'm like, this is great. And then I like yelled down to my brother. I was like, hey, I was like, you gotta watch this guy. And then my brother was like, I'm busy. And I'm like, oh, you're missing it. You know, like,
yeah, idiot.
I've frozen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. We appreciate you writing in. Googles?
Yes.
All right, Muffin Face. Do you have your Google? Or actually, we should introduce you. Let's start with that. Let's be professional. This is my sister. Welcome my sister, Emily. Emily, you actually have a new song coming out.
It's called Send Me No Flowers. It's actually a cover of a Doris Day song called Send Me No Flowers from the movie Send Me No Flowers with Doris Day and Rock Hudson. I think it's a lot of Send Me No Flowers. I think it was like really like fucking don't give me any flowers. But the movie came in 1964 and it's actually like one of my favorite Doris Day songs, and I wanted to cover it. And so during quarantine pandemic times, me and my husband Mike we decided to do it, and it was really fun. It's very like very 60s, very Doris Day-y song where it's very like uplifting, and I decided to go in a more like my go-to like depressing route and
Yeah,
kind
no,
of
you're
make
moody.
it like kind of like
Put
moody
a
and
moody
a little,
filter.
I put a moody filter on it and a little more like modern.
So it's called Send Me No Flowers, and your stage name is Elymie.
Elymie, yes, and it's
Okay, what did you
available everywhere.
It's so beautiful. I
available.
loved it.
It is a beautiful
you.
song. I love it so much, and I don't even like you as a person, so
I
think
know.
that's like I think that
Like
really
a sign.
Okay, so what did you Google this week?
I don't know. I'm now thinking maybe this is a bad choice knowing Maria's issue with sounds, but I Googled, what does it mean when your knees make a crackling sound? I've always had a problem with my knees. I've always been slightly or more than slightly overweight. So I'm thinking that's probably the reason my knees constantly hurt going upstairs, going downstairs, walking up a hill. Like if I can avoid stairs, I do. I know there's like one of my neighbors is like really into the Hollywood stairs. He's like, you should do it. And I was like, that is a nightmare for me. So when I'm like laying down on the bed next to Mike, I put my feet in the air and then I just slowly bend my knees, and it makes this like really horrible cracking, like you need knee surgery sound. Yeah. And he's like, could you stop doing that? And I was like, I was like, we need to record this, put it in a song. Like,
where'd you get that spiritual cracking sound? I'll never tell you my secrets. But I used to,
it's
know,
on
Barbies.
A need to know basis.
No, get out of this Zoom, Maria.
So basically, it's something called crectus. That's what the sound is. It either likely happens when air seeps out of like the soft tissue, kind of like when you like crack your knuckles and stuff like that. And when you bend or like bubble wrap, when you bend the joint, the air bubbles trapped like pop and make that crackly sound. Or it's due to the cartilage in your knee becoming rough. It's usually harmless, but if there's swelling and pain, then that's not good. It could be a couple of things. It could be runner's knee, which I don't think that's me. It could be a torn cartilage, and I don't think I've done enough activity to tear anything. Or it could be a sign of osteoarthritis, which might be what I have. So I've been telling people, like, I think in about like 5 years, I'm going to need knee replacements. It doesn't sound good because it literally is like, do you hear that? Do you hear my
I was hoping you would do it.
Yeah, but that's just like every time I sit down, I flex my knee and it pops. But literally, if I'm just sitting, like if you were close in here, it makes this like crackly sound that's like, ooh.
It sounds like the beginning of a fire where it's like, you know what I mean? You're like, I'm genuine. Like after this Google, I'm just like, oh no.
Is there stuff you could take like that's good for your joints? Like, I don't know why I want to say fish oil. It feels like fish oil would be good for your joints.
Is there any way to make your joints all smoothie?
The options are like physical therapy and then pain management, which is like take some drugs. And then eventually, like if it's really bad, you would need to get a joint replacement, which I think that's like, I don't know if that's different from a knee replacement. Oh, and there was like something where they would stick a syringe behind the kneecap and like fill it up with something. I don't know. I stopped reading after that.
Like a little liquid pillow, like a breast implant,
liquid,
but
that
for
might
cartilage.
Be wrong. That might be. Do your own research, everybody. Go to a doctor.
You don't have to.
Oh, you don't need to preface. Everybody knows we're morons on this podcast. After every podcast, we're like, don't listen to us. Correct us if we're wrong. Please follow Elymie.
Well, on Instagram, it's at Elymie_music.
Awesome. Follow Emily. Check out all her music. She actually has a bunch of songs out on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, all the things. Yeah. Thanks for being our Google guest.
Good to see you. Miss you guys.
I'll go.
Do you want to
go? I'll go first because mine isn't really. I'm not really super sure still what they are. Because have you heard of adaptogens?
Adaptogens?
Yeah.
No.
I feel like it's a new buzzword. It's like this thing that I'm starting to hear, and I'm like, what is it? And whatever I'm reading about them sounds like they're just herbs. So.
Okay.
I think herbs is having a reawakening. They're being remarketed, and everybody's like, no more herbs. We're going adaptogen. And that means because they're like adaptogens reduce stress. They help you focus. they help you with insomnia, but they don't like cause you know, if you're fatigued, you can take them and they'll give you energy. And I'm like, what are they? What are they? What are they?
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, basil. It's like ginseng root. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but ginseng, it helps with your memory, etc. Ashwagandha protects the body against stress and anxiety. Tulsi basil, maca root. We knew this. Mushrooms. Yes, reishi mushrooms. 2 types of mushrooms. Turmeric. We knew this. What's new?
So is aptogens? Is that the word?
Adaptogens.
Adaptogens. Is that like, you know how, okay, you ever read the back of a label and it has like a big medical word and then in the parentheses it's like coconut oil. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And you're just like, so just fucking say coconut oil. Is it
I
just
think
like
that's,
something
yeah.
that's, is it the name of it or is it something that's in basil? Like, you know, like the active ingredient or the active thing in something. Does that make
I
sense?
think they're trying to take the Ayurvedic term and like make that the new thing. Are we, this is
Yeah.
just basil. So like, I don't understand what you're selling me. So you're selling me, you want me to put licorice root in my coffee for
Now,
stress.
is it everybody that's talking about, are they trying to sell you a powder or sell you stuff? Or
It's
is
a
it like these
powder, it's
health
a
blogs?
capsule. It's like how
Okay.
CBD oil is now. You can get like a latte with CBD oil now. Like it's a powder, it's a capsule, as you're putting it in smoothies, stuff like that. But these are all just herbs
So
we've
they're trying
all
to
known.
CBD oil their brand.
Yeah, I
Big
think so. And
vitamin. I
so
mean, or big herbs.
yeah, and so this website is like some adaptogens you may already be familiar with: goji berries, turmeric, maca. But then there are all of these, which are mushrooms, basil, ashwagandha, and I think that there's probably some like Ayurvedic roots, you know, quote unquote roots to this. But I still feel like I'm being repackaged old shit, you know?
Yeah.
Cosmic matcha, adaptogenic matcha latte, moon juice, $40.
Wait, for the actual, like for like a powder?
This says cosmic matcha adaptogenic matcha latte.
Wait, it's a beverage? One beverage is $40? This is garbage.
It says by here. I think maybe it is the powder. Moon juice, you're selling me snake oil, baby. I hate that. I don't like being tricked. Oh yeah, so
Yeah,
it's like I have a matcha
Oh yeah.
powder that looks
Yeah.
exactly like that.
Like, you know, us, like we hear all that, like you're like, ooh, something that's gonna make things better, and my skin's gonna be brighter, and my stomach is gonna be happy. And they're just like, have you heard of basil? And you're like, yeah, man, I put it on my pizza. Are you crazy?
And you're like, have you ever wanted to pay $25 for a few leaves of basil?
I learned something and got angry about something all in one Google. That was exhilarating.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going on a journey. My Google is, do sleep masks mess up your eyelashes? I just started doing a lot more auditions in the last couple of months. So I have been showering a bit more, but more importantly, I've been putting on makeup. So I put on mascara like twice. So I've been putting on makeup, and what I've noticed is that my eyelashes, not only are they not curling, like they were literally like straight out there. Usually I would just put on some mascara, you know, I do the little crimpy thing, put on some mascara, and they look fine. I was never like doing anything extra for my eyelashes. These are like they're like to the side, and they don't curl, they're like crazy. And so when I would do my auditions, I could see, like, I tried I'm like crimping. I bought 2 different types of mascara. I'm like trying to fix these left eyelashes with my whole heart, and nothing is working. So I'm starting to do crazy, you know me, once I have a problem, I'm like, we get into research mode. So I'm looking up like heating curlers. I'm looking up everything. And finally I discovered lash perming, which all it does is you literally, it's a keratin thing, and it perms, you know, it curls your lashes the same way somebody would perm their hair, and it lasts for like anywhere from like a month to 3 months. And I thought maybe I would do it and it would retrain my lashes. Like maybe that's the problem, is that like my lashes, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, my lashes need to be retrained. So at first I was like, and then of course I looked up all the things that are wrong with that and blah, blah, blah. And I finally was like, fuck it. I bought a Groupon. I'm just going to take the risk. So I did it, and it's kind of awesome. Like I will say that it curled it or whatever. These are still a bit fucked up, but they're better. So they're still a little like, but now when I do mascara, they behave a little bit better. So I did kind of fix the problem. But since I got this lash perm, the woman said, I was like, hey, is there any maintenance thing I need to do? And she goes, just don't wash your eyelashes for 24 hours. Like, don't get anything on them for 24 hours. And I was like, there's got to be more things that I can do to make sure this thing that I paid for lasts longer. So I start Googling, how do you maintain a lash perm? And they go, don't wear a sleep mask. If you do, it messes with your eyelashes. And I was like, oh, of course it does. So then I go, do sleep masks mess with eyelashes? Yeah, it's the reason I have my initial problem. I started sleeping with an eye mask a year ago. I started becoming very sensitive to the light and I couldn't sleep. Like I had trouble sleeping because of any little light on a computer or anything. And then in the morning, as soon as it's 6 a.m., any light coming through my window, I would wake up and I couldn't get to sleep. So I started sleeping with a sleep mask. It fixed everything. But what it does, a sleep mask presses up against your eyelashes. And that's when, it's 12 hours of growing and your eyelashes start to grow crisscross. And that's what happened. So I actually fucked up the growth of my eyelashes by wearing this mask. And that's exactly what this Google said. They start to grow crisscross. Also, the other thing is the reason it's only on this side is because I sleep on my left side and it's pressing against not only the mask, but my pillow. And that's why these are fine. And these are all crisscrossy and messy. I know.
Nuts.
And this is their solution. Sleep on your back. Fuck you. Fuck
I told
you.
I said that last episode. I was like, you have to sleep on your back for everything.
No, they're like back problems, your face, your beauty, your height, like fuck you. So what I did is I was like, when I was looking to maintain, they have sleep masks for people with fake eyelashes, like they're trying to maintain they have ones where it's less pressure on your eye. So it's almost like a little cup, like a little soft cup over your eye and then the mask. So I bought one of those. It was like $8. I haven't gotten it yet, but they do look funnier than a regular sleep mask. I'm getting very prima donna. Like every Google is like, next thing you know, you're gonna be like, how do I reshape my face? And how do I make my hair grow up standing up? And like, how do I become Lady Gaga? I feel a little crazy that my Google made me realize that I did this to myself.
So I'm sorry. So have you stopped using eye masks?
Yeah. So I've been sleeping because I don't have my new mask yet. I've been sleeping maskless for a week because I don't want to ruin this thing I paid for. So my sleep has been a little off or whatever, but I do feel like excited that I learned something. So the other thing is the reason your eyelash, and I just know this in general from all the growth things we've learned about, all hair growth is between a month and 3 months. So any kind of change you're trying to make, it needs to take that long. Now I know that if I protect my eyelashes for the next 3 months, they'll grow in, not crisscrossy.
So how do you sleep? Like, are you just being woken up all the time?
Yeah. I mean, pasta kind of does that anyway. And I do put my sheets over my head. Yeah.
All right. It's worth it.
So
beauty.
This was like one of those Googles that I was like, psh, psh. Okay, let's get personal.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
this is a weird one that I made up.
No. Okay, we're good.
Oh,
I know, heard.
No. Okay, so I made up our let's get personal and I made it weird, but I'm kind of excited about it. Would you rather only be allowed to talk about sports at your current knowledge of sports, or only be allowed to talk about the weather at an all-knowing level of weather? You are literally like epitome of knowing what's going to happen.
Like omnipresent, like godlike knowledge of weather, or meteorologist knowledge of weather? Godlike weather.
Godlike weather.
Well, first of all, I hate talking about sports. I don't know anything about sports. So if it has to remain at this knowledge level, can you get smarter as you talk to people about sports, or is it always going to be like where I'm at now?
It's a good question. I think you can gain knowledge by talking to people, but you can't research your way into knowing more.
I just feel like there's more opportunities for, I was going to say making money. And then I was like, you mean helping people? And I was like, yes, for helping people. when you know what's going to happen with the weather, and like with climate change and everything, like we'll want to reverse that. So I think that I would be more useful for the world if I had a godlike knowledge of the weather than if I had my shit knowledge of sports and I had to talk sports forever. I think that I would rather not talk to anybody. I'd be like a monk that never said anything, because I just find I would find that excruciating. Yeah.
Especially when you don't understand. I've had people explain football to me so many times. By people, I mean every boyfriend has explained football to me every time.
It's like a language. It's like I never grew up speaking Arabic. I never picked it up, even though it's spoken around me all the time. I feel like that's what sports is. People in my family watch sports. All my friends watch sports. I should be able to just pick it up, but I still don't know anything about it. And and then when I got to the UK, and they tried to tell me, about their sports, and I was like, don't bother, because I don't know anything. So
it's funny, same answer, but I had a different perspective. So yours was
Okay.
like, I could help people. This is where I'm like almost embarrassed. You're like, I could help people. So I think talking about weather in general is the most boring attribute. So mine was all about connection. Sports is how you connect with people. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a green room and I feel so left out because it's a bunch of dudes talking about sports, and
Oh God,
I
yeah.
like literally zone out because I'm like, I can't contribute to it. Even sometimes I've tried to make a joke and they all just like, anyway, so Brady, you're like, oh, can't joke about this stuff. Like people take this shit seriously. And I
Yeah.
don't know enough to really even make the best jokes. So I'm just like making like weird mom jokes, I guess. Like, I hope to clean up after their mess. So I've always felt disconnected and stupid whenever sports comes up and I try to either be there and participate. I always feel like the girlfriend in the room, even though I'm dating nobody because I don't know what's going on. But then weather, clearly it's a conversation starter, but have you ever talked about somebody that talks about the weather too much? You're like, hey man, you got to read a book or something. So I was like on the fence, but then I was like, what if I predicted something or I told somebody something, they would think I was like a genius. And so it wasn't even about helping people. I love that you were just like, I could save lives from fires and snowstorms. And I was like, people are going to think I'm super smart and like I understand stuff. Like, oh, you know that chart? That's yeah, it's definitely going to hit Puerto Rico. So like they definitely need to evacuate this part of Puerto Rico. But like it wasn't like to save lives. It was to like people like later in a conversation be like, holy shit, did Liz predict a hurricane?
Well, I want to remind you that my original, like I changed it from I could make so much money to I'd better be nicer about this and say I could
So
save
yours,
lives. But
yeah, no, I'm very excited to save lives with my weather powers. But it is funny that you're like, you could make money. And I was like, people are going to think I'm a genius.
I know.
And now you know our motivation.
Yeah. At least we're honest about
Really,
it.
this is a smart question that really we got to know about our egos. Kind of almost proud of myself. Okay, ready for topic?
Yeah.
Okay. Our topic this week is OCD. I feel like we've talked about it in different weird ways because we had that episode about hypochondria, which we said there's parallels, but it's not the same, obviously. Oh, sorry. If you don't know what OCD is, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a mental illness, anxiety disorder that causes people to repeat unwanted thoughts and sensations. So obsessions or like the urge to do something over and over again would be a compulsion. Would you consider yourself OCD?
No.
My therapist diagnosed it to me and I fought it. I fought it for years actually. And I said she was like, I wouldn't accept it. And there's a couple of reasons I wouldn't accept it. One, because I have a friend, a comic friend that had severe OCD that kind of like ruined his life. The way people think of OCD is almost this like 80s sitcom of like washing your hands over and over again. And that's it. It's like OCD is just like checking the stove too many times and washing your hands too much. It's just this very narrow definition of it. And so knowing my friend and knowing what he went through and all the issues he had with it, I was like, well, I'm not as bad as my friend. And that's what it is. Only through doing more research and then also seeing it first in my family members, like seeing it in my father, honestly, like my father definitely has OCD. Seeing the practices in my father's made me see it in myself. And then even doing this research last night, it is kind of highly genetic. Like my dad's dyslexic and we're all dyslexic. My dad has anxiety. We all have anxiety. My dad's OCD. A lot of us are OCD. I interviewed a female boxer that I think is going to the Olympics. I can't remember. Her name's Jeannie, but I interviewed her for the Jed Foundation podcast that I do. And she has OCD and hers is definitely cleanliness OCD. Like it has to do with brushing her teeth. It has to do with like germs and stuff. And she really kind of went through all the things that she has to do and how it is literally torturous, where like she brushes her teeth and if it doesn't feel clean enough, or like if she held the toothbrush wrong, she has to throw it away and she'll brush her teeth over and over and over again. Or she has to have a certain type of soap and she has to wash her hands a certain way. It's very rigid. And her definition of clean is like, it's her definition of clean. And it literally, you know, she'll be like to practice. She'll be in the bathroom for hours because has these compulsions and these beliefs that literally lock her in and she can't get out of it.
I can't imagine anything more torturous than being locked into like, I had a friend with OCD and he had the cleanliness one too. And his hands were bleeding from how often he washed his hands. And what's funny is this is all how we live now because of COVID. But he would get to a place, wash his hands. like have to like figure out how to open the door without touching it. And he'll often use paper towels to open the doors or whatever. But it'd take him a while to. I don't know how often he was washing his hands. I don't know if he went in there, washed his hands, decided it wasn't clean enough, and then just kept washing it, because it would often take him a long time. Yeah, and so like he would bleed a lot. And then I lived with a partner who had OCD, and it wasn't a cleanliness one, but it was I feel like it was a thought loop one. Like he would get stuck in a thought pattern.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because some of them are like the 4 types of OCD, the 7 types of OCD. There's 5 types of OCD, and I was like, hey guys, what is it? Like, so, but here are like some of the most common ones. So there's like the contamination ones, like the washers. So afraid of contamination and cleaning. So that one is in hand washing. Like that one's like kind of the one that everybody thinks of. Then there's the checkers. So people that, they repeatedly check stuff, anything they associate it with harm. So you checking the stove, checking the locks. Then there's the doubters/sinners. So afraid if everything isn't perfect or just right, something terrible will happen or they will be punished, which if you're religious, how that would just torture, like absolutely torture you. So you have a religious background and you have this doubt sinners type of OCD, and how I can't even imagine. They have this one called the counters, which is like people that arrange stuff with a certain order, and there has to be symmetry, and there's superstition about certain numbers and colors and arrangements. And then there's hoarders, fear that something bad will happen if they throw something away. And then they even have like an addendum to say like there's even hoarders has its own little hoarders OCD, and then there's like a more extreme hoarders outside of it. But what I find really interesting, because I really fought the OCD because I really put it in this strict box or whatever. And I mean, I think there's some embarrassment to it. I have a lot of issues with torturous thought loops. I'll get to like triggers in a second, but like I get triggered by stress, usually a stress of an argument, like something that's interpersonal, a relationship or a friendship, or just being overwhelmed by work in general. I'll get triggered by stress, and then I'll get in these thought loops, and I can't let them go, and it'll force me into a panic attack, and it'll go on for anywhere from hours to weeks. And the worst one was maybe 2 years ago. It was 3 a.m. I kept checking my email and rereading an email, and I couldn't stop rereading it. Like reading every single word, picking apart the word, seeing if it's being misinterpreted. Keep in mind, they already emailed me back. So what am I doing? Like, why am I rereading Exactly. The response was already there. And the response, I don't remember if it was like not the response I wanted or if it could be misinterpreted, but I reread this email 50 times and I couldn't sleep. And I kept going back to it. And I literally was torturing myself and I couldn't sleep. I was like struggling to get out of this loop. And I was like, and I was finally able to acknowledge that I'm in some kind of loop and that it's starting to spur into a panic attack. And that was probably one of the I think it was the second time I ever took Xanax. And I was really scared to take Xanax. And I thought like I was like going to be addicted as soon as I took it. Everything just kind of seemed really big because when you're having a panic attack based on OCD, like it was just like a mess. And then within 20 minutes, it like calmed me and then I fell asleep and it got me out of my loop. And it was the first time, and because I've always been like, I don't want to take drugs for my issues and I can figure it out and I'll use tools and self-soothing. I could not self-soothe myself out of this. My compulsion to keep reading this email and to keep trying to figure whatever I was trying to figure out, I just couldn't let it go. And I think I was ashamed that I was doing this and it didn't really make sense. So I couldn't like call you or call a friend. Cause like sometimes I've had it where I'm like, am I misinterpreting this email? But it was like about my email. And I was embarrassed. And then I put myself in this loop. But that's where my kind of crazy comes in, is that I'll have a thought. It's usually something written. I will just keep reading it over and over again. I have shit to do. I have shit to do. Why am I reading an email 30 times? What am I looking for? And like where it becomes, not a bad habit. Cause like, they try to tell you this isn't like bad habits, like saying shitty things to yourself or biting your nails. It's when it literally affects your life and your productivity and your happiness and how you feel about yourself. Like logic doesn't stop it. I guess I always just tied it in with my panic attacks because when it gets really bad, it can lead to that. But it was the first time that I was like, oh, this is thought and compulsion OCD. I don't think people really understand the hand washing and this stuff, especially because the germ logic. I was talking to this woman, Jeannie, and I was just like, well, this is your definition of cleanliness, correct? And she goes, yeah. And I was just like, where did it come from? And she goes, it's just a belief I have. It's not even like I read an article and decided that brushing your teeth 5 times at a certain angle is the best way to do it. I decided, and then from that I can't undo it. And it's like,
It's a
and that's the
control
same
thing.
kind of thing.
It's like if I do this, then everything will be okay. It's sort of like how my parents pray. But
especially the doubter sinners version of it. If I do this, things will work out. Things will be safe. No one will get hurt. Like that superstitious thing. They talk about the loop of OCD. So basically it's like an obsessive thought. Then there's the anxiety. If I don't do the thing that I'm obsessed about, then there's the compulsive behavior. And then there's the relief. Like you actually do feel some form of relief. And then it circles back around. It's one of these things, like it does work. You know what I mean? By doing this habit or doing this thing, at some point there is relief. But as soon as you get triggered again, it goes back into this kind of loop. And
it's sort of like doing drugs on a small scale. I feel anxious. I drink wine. Do not feel anxious. It works. I feel bad in the morning. I feel anxious. I drink wine. So it's like that, but like, much smaller, 100%. More constant.
I don't know if this is the correct way to talk about it, but it feels like a belief system. Somewhere in your life, you believe that this way of being clean is important and needs to be done. For me, I don't know if it's because of my dyslexia or whatever, but I have some kind of obsession with how I'm perceived via emails. Like I reread a lot of emails and text messages in a looping way where like I'll read it 15 times, put it down, and then 10 minutes later I'll pick it back up and I'll read it another 15 times. Like, and I'm searching for something. Sometimes I don't even know what it is. But I am looking for some kind of, I came across thoughtful. Yeah, I came across smart. Yeah, there's no way to misinterpret this. Like I'm looking for some relief or validation that what I wrote was the right thing to write so that I can almost calm my anxiety. And that's what it is. I mean, it's an anxiety disorder, but like they basically, like a lot of the tips they give is like identifying your triggers. So like I absolutely know if I'm stressed, because I don't get into these habits every day. It's when a certain person there's some kind of conflict with a certain person, or I'm talking to somebody where I don't know enough about them to know how they're interpreting my personality, which I feel like I have an aggressive personality. I've done a lot of self-soothing and ways to talk to myself. Otherwise I'll torture myself. Like I had a meeting with a casting director yesterday and I like met in an office and they made it so we're like 15 feet apart or whatever. Two embarrassing things happened. First, I was looking for his office and I passed it. And like, I guess I wasn't paying attention. Like I'm looking for the number. And so I pass it and I see it and I'm like kind of lost. And I'm like, oh, I think I need to turn around. And I'm seeing a guy come this way. And I'm like, I'm sure that's the guy. And he just sees me being an idiot that doesn't know how to count. Absolutely was the guy. So he watched me kind of do a loop. And then I sit in the lobby and then I'm like, so, have this conversation. He was nice, but I couldn't like read him or whatever. And then, he asked, is there any questions you want to ask a casting director that you never wanted to ask? I asked him questions, but it seemed like decent. So then at the end, so keep in mind, like they staggered it so nobody else is in the waiting room. They have it 15 feet apart. Nobody's near each other. And I was like, okay, well, thank you so much. Be safe. Don't touch any of these actors. Joking, like, don't touch people. And he goes, I never do. And I was like, oh God, like fucking.
You might as well have been like, don't grab any boobies, you big creep.
Yeah. And I didn't at all. But when he responded, I never do, I was like, oh, fucking A, Liz. And I literally started going into like, fuck. And I just had to go, we talked about comedy for a half hour. If he can't take a joke, you just have to let it go. Like, and that's where like, and not that it always works, but I had to be like, nothing matters, let it go. Nothing matters, let it go. You're a comedian, you make mistakes. That's like your whole job. But oh man, did I have to, like, I was on the subway just like, you had a decent meeting. And then you continued to talk.
Well, it's those risks that also pay off for you as well. It's those risks that get people to laugh and they go, this girl's funny, right? And where everyone else doesn't want to be risky. So they just go, hi, I'm pleasant to be around. And you go, hi, I'm funny, I'm a comedian. So sometimes you fuck up, but that's why you fuck up, is because you're willing to take those risks.
Yeah, silly example. Okay, so tips is identifying your triggers, stress, learn to resist. So Jeannie talked about exposure and response prevention. It's ERP. And basically, I think it's kind of similar to misophonia, which is that they would literally do stuff that would trigger you. Like for her, it was about like putting mud on her hands and sitting there and not washing them. Literally doing stuff that would make you want to do something compulsive and just with it.
Feels like something you hear about at the turn of the 20th century. Like they used to make the people with OCD put mud on their hands and sit in the town square in like front of everybody, shame them out of their OCD. But it sounds medieval or something.
Yeah. And so that's definitely what like she did. I mean, there's also like there's like anti-anxiety medication, stuff like that, but really they say it's like cognitive behavioral therapy and this exposure and response therapy. They talk about this thing called a fear ladder, which is like you kind of list all your compulsive thoughts or whatever, and you range it. So getting COVID and dying might be at 10. My house burning down because I didn't turn off the stove is at a 7. And losing my wallet and not having copies of all my stuff might be at a 3. Like you kind of list all of it, and then you kind of go through each thing and go, what's the worst case scenario? What would happen if this happened? What are you doing that can prevent it every day, and know that this isn't like a logical thought or whatever? Then they have like the challenge, like, so you like, there's like, you write down with this, I think, thought ladder, like you would write down everything, and then you give yourself 10 minutes. So like, let's say you have a worry. So like, we'll use this example of what I said to the casting director. You write it down. I would be like, I said a joke that could be misinterpreted and make me look like a monster. You give yourself 10 minutes every day, and you have like a timeout worry section of your life. Like maybe every day at 7, you spend 10 minutes to just worry about it. And you're like, well, what if I just ruin this meeting and he never calls me in? And then I go, well, I lived my life before meeting him and I didn't have a problem. Why does it matter? You know what I mean? You can't take anything away if I didn't have anything to take away.
Even without fucking up, that's all my entire thought process. Anytime I send in tapes for an audition, anytime I have a meeting with anyone, anytime I leave going, I'm just fucking idiot, stupid. It's just like, you know what? Like, you are you. And if they don't like you, someone else will. It doesn't matter. Like, but I always have to talk myself off a ledge after anything that might be important.
Yeah. And that's a form of self-soothing. Like being able to tell myself my life will be, yes, we would like our life to be better and, easier, but my life, I don't lose anything by not having this opportunity. You know what I mean? It's not like I do a bad audition and they take away a gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We always joke about your example with your audition and you're like, I lost billions of dollars. Like I was going to be Oprah and by not getting this fantasy. But the truth of the matter is like nothing is concrete until it's in your bank account and you book the gig. So by just doing an audition, you didn't lose anything. Nothing bad happened. Being a comedian, an actor, a writer, like it's all just, it's so many opportunities and you get such a small fraction of them kind of pay off that you do have to like just get used to things not working out. And that is normal. Normalizing, you passed up and you might never know why. Normalizing the unknown. And I do think a lot of anxiety disorders is about control. Like I've learned so much that these habits, these superstitions, these thought processes were put in place because I grew up in chaos. And if I can control this small window and it works out, then maybe I can control other things in my life. And it's like, it's almost like this mental gymnastics of safety. Like everything is about trying to feel safe and in control. And you do it in little bite-sized pieces because it gives you this illusion of safety and control. I definitely want to hear from anybody that does have OCD or someone close to them had it. I think for me, I'm still struggling to understand it. I think what's always been hard for me is I have such a combination of stuff and they all overlay. Like I think we're kind of like, where does my dyslexia begin and my anxiety disorder end? And you know what I mean? Like it's all like, where does childhood trauma meet? Like it, to me, the more I learn about each stuff that we learn about, it all kind of layers on top of each other. And I'm already in therapy. I already have somebody that helps me with this stuff. I've already learned a lot of tools and soothing things. And like I said, I do have Xanax for when things get really bad and it has helped. But I guess from anybody that has OCD, how they learned about it, how they cope with it, you were dating somebody that had it and how that affected you, because I think that's the other side of it is that there's somebody in the bathroom washing their hands and then there's somebody else waiting for the person to stop washing their hands. Like this one's really challenging where it's really just about managing and it's not something that really kind of goes away. It's again about these tools, self-soothing, and maybe medication to kind of help ease it because it is so severe.
Write to us at 2 non-doctors, the number 2 non-full-word doctors at gmail.com. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.